الإيجابية جديدة. محمد حمد، بي بي سي، القاهرة.
هذه النشرة متواترة معكم وفيها أيضا في ليبيا ووضح لما وصفها بالتدخلات الخارجية. في سيراليون يبدأ تشكيل أول مجموعة من الفتيات لم يخضعن لعمليات. اتفق الرئيس على تكثيف الجهود المشتركة بين البلدين لتسوية الأزمة الليبية ومكافحة ما وصفها بالميليشيات المسلحة والتنظيمات الإرهابية. ذكر بيان عن الرئاسة المصرية أن بوتين والسيسي اتفقوا على وضع حد الخارجية التي وصف البيان بغير المشروعة في الشأن الليبي. كانت الرئاسة المصرية قد أعلنت أن السيسي أجرى اتصالا هاتفيا صاعدة في الملف الليبي. بدأت إيران والصين وروسيا مناورات بحرية مشتركة حتى 30 من هذا الشأن. الهدف منها هو تعميق التعاون بين القوات البحرية للدول الثلاث. تأتي هذه المناورات وسط متصاعد بين طهران وواشنطن في المنطقة.
بدأت الصين وروسيا تدريبات عسكرية مشتركة في خليج عمان. تهدف التدريبات العسكرية المقررة حتى 30 من الشهر إلى تعميق التعاون بين القوات التابعة تفضي إلى استقرار الوضع في المنطقة. شددت بكين على أن هذه التدريبات ستسهم إلى حد كبير في تعزيز الأمن البحري في العالم.
إليه بين الصين وروسيا وإيران. ستجري جيوش هذه الدول تدريبات مشتركة في خليج عمان في الفترة من ممارسة صواريخ جهة شينينغ للانضمام تدريبات. تهدف التدريبات البحرية القادمة إلى تعميق التبادل والتعاون بين أساطيل الدول الثلاث وإظهار الإراده
سينجر خلال تدريبات مدمرة الصواريخ الموجهة شينينغ التي يطلق عليها.
On Me Too in France was about, oh, we're not going to be able to seduce each other anymore, but that's not the question. There's a difference between seduction and violence.
And stop saying to women that they have to do that in order not to be raped, to do that and this and stuff, but trying to and beginning to tell men not to rape girls, maybe.
A law has been passed by Marlène Schiappa on street harassment, and I mean, I personally don't think it's the good way of doing it, because you know you can't really. I mean, it's just some part of the iceberg. Like there's such a big part of harassment that we don't see on the streets, and it's just. I mean, it's not going to be efficient. The true thing to do to me, and I guess to us, is education, not punishing people. The many rape stories that have happened on campus. The only answer was like, you know, stay in a group when you go back home and like don't put yourself in a dangerous situation. But that's, I mean, you know, so some of these things happened in full daytime. So you know, you might as well be in a group or not drunk or rowing a coat. It's still gonna happen.
Speaking to these girls gave me hope, but only 2 days later, I heard their exhibition had been vandalized twice. So has the Me Too movement really failed in France? Or has it changed anything? Across town, I meet Johanna Dagorn, a sociologist whose work focuses on women's behavior in urban areas. She's been conducting some research to find out whether Me Too had an impact on street harassment.
Dans toutes les enquêtes qu'on ait pu faire, avant et après, qu'on en avait 2 avant MeToo et 2 après MeToo, environ 87% des témoins ne font rien. Ce qui participe d'un cercle complètement vicieux et non vertueux, qui va renforcer l'impunité des auteurs, qui va dire également aux victimes, aux femmes, bien que c'est normal, étant donné que personne ne reprend ce qui se passe, Et également, ça permet de déculpabiliser aussi les témoins dans la mesure où personne ne dit rien.
Qu'est-ce que vous trouvez alors comme différence
Ce qui a changé, ce n'est pas tant l'intervention des témoins, parce qu'on est toujours sur ces mêmes chiffres de 87% des témoins qui ne bougent pas. Du côté des auteurs, quand on regarde sur les derniers questionnaires, qui sont de l'ordre de presque 400, on a 13 étudiantes sur le campus qui déclarent avoir été violées dans l'espace public et sur le campus dans les 12 derniers mois. Donc on peut quand même penser que du côté des auteurs, les choses n'ont pas changé non plus. Par contre, ce qui change, c'est du côté des victimes et notamment des étudiantes qui se laissent beaucoup moins faire. Là, on est davantage sur une demande pratique et pragmatique avec des effets concrets.
Something that she's also been hearing in focus groups.
Je ne sais pas si c'est lié au mouvement, mais avant j'aurais pu faire des détours. Mais aujourd'hui je décide de passer quand même sur ces endroits-là et je n'ai pas envie de me restreindre, de changer d'itinéraire pour éviter un éventuel danger parce que c'est au danger de s'effacer et pas à moi.
Est-ce que vous-même vous vous sentez plus autorisé à intervenir par exemple?
Je me souviens, cet été, je rentrais même pas si tard que ça. J'étais assise, aucun compte, sur l'arrêt du tram, sur mon téléphone. Et il y a 2-3 hommes qui sont venus juste rigoler, je sais pas, me parler. Ils étaient un peu ivres. Et il y avait une fille qui est venue me secourir, faire semblant comme si c'était mon amie. Et elle est restée avec moi pendant tout le trajet du bus. Et on est resté un peu en contact. Et c'est la première fois qu'une fille de presque mon âge, elle avait 2 ans plus que moi, venait de m'aider. Et depuis, pareil, quand je vois une femme un peu aussi qui se sent oppressée par un homme ou 2 hommes sur un arrêt de bus, je viens, je sais pas, je rigole, je parle au téléphone, juste pour faire du bruit, pour lui faire peur.
The movement may not have had a structural effect on French society yet, but hearing this, it seems it is impacting women at an individual level.
32% des Françaises avaient subi du harcèlement sexuel ou une agression sexuelle au travail. 80% des femmes sont régulièrement confrontées au sexisme au travail. Avec ces chiffres-là, normalement, vous êtes capable, dans n'importe quel cadre, repas de famille, soirée entre potes, machine à café au bureau, de percuter ce qu'on appelle l'illusion de l'égalité, c'est-à-dire ce sentiment que, globalement, ça va.
The first national meeting of the New Tout organization. On the 24th of November 2018, 60,000 women gathered all over France to demonstrate against gender violence, one of the largest women's marches in French history. With a more inclusive name, the New Tout movement intends to provide both men and women with the necessary tools and knowledge to tackle gender violence.
L'objectif de nous toutes, il est double. Il est d'abord de faire lever le niveau de conscience dans la société, chez les individus, pour que dans chaque famille, à chaque machine à café au bureau, dans chaque coin de rue, la question des violences sexistes et sexuelles devienne un sujet. Le deuxième objectif, c'est qu'à tous les échelons des pouvoirs publics, au niveau international, national ou local, que les élus, les pouvoirs publics prennent enfin la mesure du problème et décident d'actions concrètes pour faire reculer, voire disparaître les violences sexistes et sexuelles.
After speaking with so many women across the country, I'm left with mixed feelings. But perhaps, because I am an optimist, this is what I'd like to remember.
The ears started to listen better.
Le niveau de conscience est monté.
C'est une étape importante dans l'affirmation des femmes.
Pour que le combat soit victorieux, il faut que ce soit un combat commun, ça c'est évident.
For sure, men need to be part of it, and so many are walking alongside already. I think that there is a before and after Me Too. The very fact that I have made this documentary is the proof of it. Women around the world are on the move, and a change is coming. Maybe the French will do it differently to the Brits, Brazilians, Indians or Nigerians. But a sense of empowerment has been unleashed, and it will be very hard to stop it.
Female photographers are pushing boundaries.
It was
a way to do a sort of political resistance.
And offering a glimpse into rarely seen lives.
What I tried to do was really give people my experience.
Find your way in that no one else can tell, and go deeper, and go deeper.
Through the Lens, online now at bbc.com/throughTheLens.
Hello. With the potential for more disruptive weather for travellers in the coming few days across the United States, this low pressure has already given snow through California and moves into the desert states to give potential flooding rains, freezing rain as it heads northwards, and more snow across the plains. Now, to the north of southern Brazil and northern Argentina. Now, the weather's drying across
This is BBC World News Today. I'm Aaron Safir. Our top stories. A passenger jet has crashed in Kazakhstan, killing 12 people but leaving dozens of survivors.
Everyone started screaming, kids are crying, and the lights were on in the plane. And but there was no a sound. I mean, there was no instructions from the crew.
The UN says parts of Idlib province in Syria are almost deserted as nearly 250,000 people flee from a government offensive. Australian fire crews brace themselves for another dangerous heat wave. Temperatures of over 40 degrees Celsius are set to hit several states affected by bushfires. And coming up in sport, Manchester City have the chance to go above Leicester and into second place in the Premier League with a win at Wolves. Hello and welcome to World News Today. Dozens of passengers have survived a plane crash in Kazakhstan in which 12 people lost their lives. The crash took place in heavy fog, although the cause isn't yet known. The Kazakh company Bekair operated the plane and it crashed shortly after taking off from Kazakhstan's largest city, Almaty. It was en route to the capital, Nur-Sultan, with 100 passengers and crew on board. Well, of those, at least 60 people are being treated in hospital, as our correspondent Sarah Rainsford reports.
Rescued from the wreckage, a baby boy is rushed to safety. He was discovered in the arms of his injured mother after their flight crash-landed. Moments after takeoff, the plane had rammed into a building. It broke into pieces on impact. But there were survivors, and some even walked away from this unharmed.
I was sitting next to emergency exit.
Just hours later, Aslan Nazaraliyev managed to tell me what happened. He'd posted this photo on social media showing his seat on the flight from Almaty. He thinks most in front of him were badly hurt or killed.
The plane started swaying like a boat, very intensively. Everyone started screaming, kids are crying, and the lights were on in the plane. But there was no a sound. There was no instructions from the crew. Yeah, it was only sound of people panicking in the plane.
The businessman says it took at least 15 minutes for rescuers to arrive, so he and other survivors began pulling people to safety.
It was dark at the same time. We were lighting with cell phone lights, so helping out each other. So all the guys trying to take out people because there was a high risk of fire.
What were you thinking when this was happening?
Thinking about my family. Yeah, that's only what I was thinking, and helping people that the fire should not kill who survived.
The plane was a Fokker 100, operated by the low-cost carrier Bekair. Its entire fleet has now been grounded whilst the crash is investigated. Kazakhstan's government says the plane's tail hit the runway twice during takeoff. The flight had barely got off the ground before it came crashing back down, with terrible consequences that could have been even worse. Sarah Rainsford, BBC News, Moscow.
Well, for more on what might have caused the crash, I spoke to the aviation expert Sally Gethin.
From what we already know, I'd be more concerned about ice on the wing, which can have a catastrophic effect when an aircraft's taking off in a cold climate. So although, to all intents and purposes, fog could be a complicating factor, it would only be if, for example, there was loss of visibility, there was instrument failure on the flight deck, which would mean that the pilot would really need to rely on those instruments to have visibility. And in any case, if the fog had been too heavy, then the control tower would have given the pilot instructions to hold off taking that, to do the takeoff.
I mean, I suppose to an extent what we're saying is that at this stage, it could be any number of things, and it might take some time for us to know exactly why this has happened.
That's correct. So everything is speculation. So when I said about the ice on the wing, that's also speculation. Having said that, this is an older aircraft type that's no longer in production, and therefore maintaining those aircraft that are older does require high standards in maintenance and technical support. So one hopes that that has been maintained to the correct standard with this aircraft, which dates back to the 1980s in terms of its heyday in manufacture and production.
We've seen a death toll of 12, although perhaps that could go up. But quite interestingly, more people surviving than dying in this crash. How common is that?
So it is, survivability is increasing, and that's due to the crash worthiness tests that are done on airframers these days. So we are seeing that aircraft accidents are coming down despite the concerns and, despite the headlines occasionally, they are in general coming down. Aircraft are becoming safer. There's a lot of stress testing done on the fuselage itself and also the cabin interior in terms of protecting passengers. And it looks in this case as if the vast majority of that fuselage, the interior, did maintain its structure, and it was the forward part of the airframe that actually collapsed and therefore caused the fatalities that we've seen.
Well, that was the aviation expert Sally Gethin speaking to me earlier about that crash in Kazakhstan. Now, the United Nations estimates that nearly 250,000 people have fled Syria's Idlib province in the past 3 weeks. The government and Russian forces are intensifying their attacks there as it's the rebels' last stronghold. The UN says the Maret al-Numan region in southern Idlib is now almost completely empty. The newly displaced are taking shelter in mosques and other public buildings. Well, David Swanson is from the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs. He's been telling me more about the conditions displaced people are facing.
Sadly, the humanitarian situation in northwest Syria, in particular Idlib, continues to deteriorate as we speak. What we have essentially now is a crisis within a crisis. Between the 1st of this month and Christmas Day, more than 243,000 people have been displaced. The vast majority, upwards of 80% of them, women and children, fleeing northward to urban areas and to IDP camps in the north of the area.
And what about the kind of conditions that people are fleeing? What are people telling you and your workers on the ground about that?
Well, the situation on the ground was already dire. As you're well aware, at the end of April, we had a major surge in displacement. From the end of April until the end of August, we had more than 400,000 people displaced at that time. So the latest displacement figures comes on top of that. So what we have is one crisis compounding another.
Now, fighting in the area has escalated in recent weeks. I mean, how does that complicate the work that your organisation and other organisations do to provide relief?
Well, I think what's quite challenging is to understand the context of Idlib in specific. It's about twice the size of Luxembourg in landmass, but about 5 times size the population. So at the moment, it is extremely densely populated. So you have large populations moving northward, and many of the aid workers and NGOs that were working in the south, they themselves have become displaced. Their families have been displaced. So it makes it a particularly difficult and challenging work environment for the humanitarian community to respond appropriately.
And of course, David, in that part of the world, it is winter. And I wonder what kind of complications that cold weather brings and how difficult it makes it for people fleeing.
Well, a lot of people don't realize how cold it can actually get. It can drop below zero at nighttime in this part of the country. So it's an incredibly difficult time. So obviously shelter is a major concern for us, not to mention winterization assistance, which is urgently needed as we speak.
David Swanson from the United Nations speaking to me earlier. Now, firefighters in Australia are bracing themselves for more extreme heat as they continue to tackle the uncontrolled bushfires there. Temperatures above 40 degrees Celsius are expected in several bushfire-affected states, including New South Wales, South Australia and Victoria, all in the coming days. Deadly bushfires have destroyed more than 4 million hectares in 5 Australian states since September, as Courtney Bembridge now reports.
Almost 3,000 firefighters have been working around the clock since the bushfire crisis started in September. Many of them are volunteers who've given up their Christmas break to try to contain the fires and to save homes. Sporadic rain over parts of eastern Australia has done little to help extinguish the flames, but firefighters have taken advantage of cooler temperatures in recent days to try and contain fire fronts. But the cool change won't last long. This is the forecast for Monday, temperatures building up to 38 degrees Celsius or higher across most of the country.
So that's going to elevate fire dangers, and we know the winds are going to start turning around to the west and the northwest, which is why so much work has been going on over this last week. While conditions are more mild,
the crucial work involves strengthening containment lines to stop the fire spreading and controlled backburning of dry grass, which acts as a fire fuel. That's seen as a last resort, an indication of how desperate the situation is getting. In New South Wales, there are more than 100 fires burning, the largest to the west of Sydney. Fires are also burning across South Australia. In parts of the state, temperatures rose above 40 degrees Celsius, marking the start of a new wave of heat in the continent's south. Over the past 2 weeks, hundreds of people in South Australia have needed medical attention for heat-related illnesses.
Look out for the signs and symptoms that are generally associated with dehydration, and they include headaches, nausea, vomiting, dizziness, and ultimately potentially collapse.
Authorities in New South Wales are also worried about protecting water infrastructure, which could be damaged or contaminated by ash, including the Warragamba Dam, which supplies the majority of Sydney's water, a city home to 5 million residents.
what that means when it does rain again, what sort of runoff will there be, what sort of siltation will there be, ash, soil, all that sort of stuff getting into the waterways.
The situation is also affecting tourism. Visitors to a famous rock formation in the Blue Mountains took photographs in front of the sign after the real thing was obscured by smoke.
Yeah, I've always wanted to see the Blue Mountains, so it's such a shame that when we came, it looks like this.
A bit disappointed. We came into Sydney and the first couple of days there was a lot of smoke and smoke haze. It made us cough a little bit, especially at night.
Trade is way, way down. I'm doing about a third of what I would normally do at this time of year. And I think that's the same for everyone.
This is usually the busiest time of year for Australia's tourism industry, and despite the hot conditions and smoke in Sydney, more than 1 million people are expected to attend the famous fireworks display on New Year's Eve. Courtney Bembridge, BBC News.
Well, let's take a look at some of the other stories making the news now. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has won a
كثيرا
The Minister of Public Finance and Digital Economy, Kate Forbes, and CEO of the Scottish Government-backed Innovation Centre Data Lab, Gillian Doherty. For anybody who doesn't know what Data Lab do you just want to tell them a little about what it is, Gillian?
Sure. So the Data Lab is Scotland's innovation centre for data science and artificial intelligence. And ultimately it's about driving value for the whole country by leveraging our data better.
And you've already done some really life-changing partnerships, haven't you? Tell me about the cancer one.
We have, yes. So we've been working with the Beatsons Cancer Hospital on using computer vision technology to help the radiologists delineate tumours from healthy tissues and complex neck cancers. We've also worked across multiple of the health boards using data to improve patient-reported experience measures and outcome measures and integrate that with their clinical treatment as part of their unfortunate cancer journey.
But looking at some of the issues there are in Scotland today, high unemployment is of course one of them. How do you perceive technology affecting that? Because obviously there are pros and cons.
That's right, and technology is definitely going to disrupt the job market as we know it. But on the other hand, we also know that the technology sector in Scotland is constantly looking for new skills and talent. So our job is to match the people that are currently looking for work with the businesses and the organisations that are looking for those skills.
Jobs will change. There are jobs that we do now that didn't exist 20, 30, 40 years ago. And depending on the research you read, for our primary children, up to 60% of those children that are starting school right now will have jobs that don't even exist just now. So it's hard to get your mind around that, but whose grandmother was a search engine optimisation specialist? Whose grandpa was a vlogger?
And you are two women working in technology. Do you really think that things are changing?
Very, very slowly. So they are changing, and we're seeing that in Scotland because closing the gender gap is key to what we're trying to achieve. But it's about going into primary schools and encouraging young women and girls to think that they can actually work in this sector and work in this area and see incredible role models.
Now, we all know about cars and pollution, right? But how about a vehicle where the more you drive it, the cleaner it makes the air? Well, the Hyundai Nexo claims to do just that. Where you'd normally have an engine, there's a fuel cell stack where hydrogen and oxygen combine to create the electricity that powers the car and charges the battery. But can it actually clean the air? Well, we braved the very cold Dundee air to put it to the test.
So over here we have Robin Hales from Hyundai. Hi. Hey, what's going to happen?
So we're going to demonstrate how the filtration system of a Hyundai Nexo cleans the air as it drives along. What we're going to do is we've got a pump here, which we're going to add this, which is a jar of PM10 and PM2.5 particulate.
Nasty stuff.
Yeah, this is the stuff that comes out of trucks, cars, buses.
So that's soot and carbon and stuff like that?
Yeah.
All right, so no sniffing that then while we open the jar. We're going to bung that in now, aren't we?
Yeah, my colleague Mr. Shim here is going to add that into the system.
Keep your eye on what happens to the air as we do it.
You'll see there, you see the soot go into the balloon.
Look at that. That looks filthy. Imagine what would happen if you held this piece of white paper up to the exhaust of your petrol car. It's going to get pretty grey, isn't it? Give it a squeeze. Oh, yeah, it's quite satisfying, actually. Get as much air onto that as possible, and let's just see. Smells all right, I have to say. All right, let's have a look. Show that to the camera. That's marvellous. So pretty much, yeah, there's pretty much nothing on there. So that's good. We can show you what the car has filtered out of the air. So let's have the clean filter in. This is what the filter looked like when it went into the car. We've taken this one out of the car now, and can you see the difference? Yeah. So that's what it sucked out of the air in the last 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, that's all the particulates out of the air. So that's everything in that jar is now on that filter.
Nice. Now, there's one other thing that hydrogen cars produce, and that's water vapour, which you're assuring me is very, very clean. Is that right?
It's very clean. I'll show you how clean.
All right, so we're going to get a glass of water, or as it's known in Dundee, ice, out of the ball. And you think that is very, very clean water?
Yeah, that's pure water. So this isn't tap water. This isn't bottled water you get in the shop. This is 100% pure water.
And Robin assures me it's so pure that you can drink it and you don't keel over. So, well, go on then. You said it. Go on, give us a bit plasticky, but better than some supermarket bottles. 3, 2, 1, push!
Back inside, and a Click Live show wouldn't be a Click Live show without waving, shouting and generally getting a bit overexcited.
All that remains is to thank everyone who turned up to see us live and, of course, you at home for watching. From all of us here at Click, we hope you have a very happy new year.
Go, 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 yes!
Hello, there's a lot going on with the weather around the world at the moment. Over the next 3 minutes, we'll spin around the globe and find out what's going on. Let's start in North America, where on the satellite picture, where you can see clouds pushing out of the southwest towards the plains. This is a developing storm system, an area of low pressure, some very warm air, or at least mild air, being dragged up ahead of it, some very cool air coming down on the western flank. So on the cold side of this storm, we're going to see a lot of snow. Some parts of the northern plains likely to see 15 to 25 centimetres, maybe 40 centimetres of snow in places. Brisk winds as well, so I think there'll be blizzard conditions. On the southern flank of this storm system, we'll see some really heavy downpours, the potential for some severe thunderstorms. A little bit of rain across the northwest of Mexico, much of Mexico dry with quite a lot of sunshine. That's certainly the story there for the Yucatan Peninsula. As we push down into Costa Rica and Panama, quite a few showers around here, but it looks largely dry for much of the Caribbean. Also pretty wet across northern parts of South America through Colombia, but particularly I think Ecuador and Peru. Some really heavy downpours, also some clusters of thunderstorms affecting central portions of Chile and central parts of Argentina. Split fortunes in Europe, very unsettled to the southeast, some really heavy downpours, brisk winds and generally a cold feel across these eastern areas. Lots of dry weather and sunshine for Iberia up into France. Weather systems bringing cloud and rain to the northwest of the British Isles and certainly for Scandinavia, but it will be turning a bit milder here. Now to Africa, lots of downpours continuing to affect East Africa. We have once again had flooding here in recent days. I think there's more to come. And also, just on the edge of the chart there, it looks like we're going to develop a tropical cyclone which could be heading towards Mauritius. Showers tending to clear away from Oman on Sunday. Dry for many in the Middle East, but quite unsettled for coastal parts of the Levant. Some heavy rain for the likes of Lebanon and Syria. Now to India, while northernmost parts will continue to see some issues with fog, very poor air quality and rather chilly here, certainly by night. Some spots will even see a touch of frost. Remnants of what was Typhoon Panthorn moving northwestwards. Not a typhoon anymore, certainly, but generating some really intense downpours across southernmost parts of China and Taiwan. We could possibly see some effects of that for the coast of Vietnam as well, with some heavy downpours to come here. Further south, it's typical weather really through the Malay Peninsula and Singapore in towards Indonesia. A scattering of heat of the day thunderstorms. Now to Australia, it remains very, very hot indeed. Many bushfires burning here. This weather isn't going to help very much because for the most part it's dry with a lot of sunshine. Particularly hot towards the northwest corner, 45 degrees there for Exmouth, but also up into the 40s for parts of the southeast. A weather system bringing rain into the southwest of New Zealand, further north and east largely dry with some sunshine. That's all from me. Bye for now.
This is a state visit with nearly all the bells and whistles. There's no gold coach ride up the Mall. There is no joint address to Parliament.
Well, Turkish forces are continuing to pound targets across the border in Syria.
And the activists, well, they want to see if they can crash Beijing's party. The police are firing tear gas and rubber bullets at them.
Question is whether this climate change activism will translate into climate change action.
There's huge excitement here, but some question whether India should invest in the space race while millions live in poverty.
From this vantage point, you get a sense of the scale of the disaster facing this region of the Amazon.
There is so much energy and pride here for the U.S. women's soccer team. They've shown they are a force on the field.
Hello and welcome to BBC News. I'm James Reynolds. The United Nations estimates that nearly 250,000 people have fled Syria's Idlib province in the past 3 weeks. The government and Russian forces are intensifying their attacks on what is the rebels' last stronghold. The UN says the Maret al-Numan region is now almost empty, as the BBC's Tim Orman reports.
Before the war, more than 50,000 people lived and worked and thrived here. But now it looks more like a ghost town. The streets almost empty, the houses deserted. Convoys of cars and vans and lorries snaking out of this town and others like it, as the people of Idlib flee for their lives.
From the end of April until the end of August, we had more than 400,000 people displaced at that time. So the latest displacement figures comes on top of that. So what we have is one crisis compounding another.
These are desperate times, people taking what they can, what few possessions they are able to carry with them. Many have fled north, heading to refugee camps like this one near the border with Turkey. It's safer here, but these people have lost everything. Each and every day is a struggle.
A lot of bombs targeted us and we didn't know where to go. We were searching for a car to take us away from the bombardment. We got out in the cold and rainy weather. We came here and they told us they would help us. Now we're living in tents. We can't keep living like this.
Syrian government forces backed by Russia have been bombarding Idlib, trying to win back control from the rebels. The last pockets of resistance in a war that's been raging for nearly 9 years. These refugees, desperate for peace and a chance to return home. Tim Orman, BBC News.
Dozens of passengers have survived a plane crash in Kazakhstan. The Kazakh company Bek Air operated the plane, which was en route to the capital Nur-Sultan with 100 passengers and crew on board. 12 people lost their lives. Sarah Rainsford reports.
Rescued from the wreckage, a baby boy is rushed to safety. He was discovered in the arms of his injured mother after their flight crash-landed. Moments after takeoff, the plane had rammed into a building. It broke into pieces on impact. But there were survivors, and some even walked away from this unharmed.
I was sitting next to emergency exit.
Just hours later, Aslan Nazaraliyev managed to tell me what's happened. He'd posted this photo on social media showing his seat on the flight from Almaty. He thinks most in front of him were badly hurt or killed.
The plane starts swaying like a boat, very intensively. Everyone starts screaming, kids are crying, and the lights were on in the plane. But there was no a sound. There was no instructions from the crew. Yeah, it was only sound of people panicking in the plane.
The businessman says it took at least 15 minutes for rescuers to arrive, so he and other survivors began pulling people to safety.
It was dark at the same time. We were lighting with cell phone lights, so helping out each other. So all the guys trying to take out people because there was a high risk of fire.
What were you thinking when this was happening?
Thinking about my family, yeah. That's only what I was thinking, and helping people that the fire should not kill who survived.
The plane was a Fokker 100, operated by the low-cost carrier Bek Air. Its entire fleet has now been grounded whilst the crash is investigated. Kazakhstan's government says the plane's tail hit the runway twice during takeoff. The flight had barely got off the ground before it came crashing back down, with terrible consequences that could have been even worse. Sarah Rainsford, BBC News, Moscow.
Hello there. We've got some heavy rain on the way to northern areas of Madagascar and northern parts of Mozambique over the next 24 hours. The satellite picture shows extensive clouds. It's already brought actually 117 millimetres of rain in the last 24 hours across northeastern areas of Madagascar, but the rain increasingly working its way westwards, bringing those downpours into northern parts of Mozambique. I think both countries could see around 50 to 100 millimetres of rain, and then an area of low pressure that's driving some of this unsettled weather, which is well to the northeast of Madagascar, may develop into a tropical storm over the next few days and could get quite close to Mauritius, so something to keep a close eye on over the next few days. Meanwhile, we've got a few more storms to come across eastern areas of South Africa. Some of these have been very fierce over the last 24 hours, so further downpours, for example, in Johannesburg. Casablanca, in contrast, staying dry and sunny. Now, we've got some more unsettled weather to look at across the Middle East. A band of heavy rain pushing into northwestern areas of Syria and Lebanon. Here we could see as much as 50 to 100 millimetres of rain, so there is the threat of some flooding. It's not the only place that we'll see rain, though. A trough will bring some thundery showers into eastern areas of Oman, particularly towards the coast, and that also could bring some localised flash flooding. To the north, Saudi Arabia staying dry and settled. Over the next few days, temperatures actually increasing in Riyadh up to 27 by Tuesday. That's your weather.
This is a state visit with nearly all the bells and whistles. There's no gold coach ride up the Maldives. There is no joint address to Parliament.
Well, Turkish forces are continuing to pound targets across the border in Syria.
And the activists, well, they want to see if they can crash Beijing's party. The police are firing tear gas and rubber bullets at them.
You can see the crowd here, it's swelling. Chileans are back on the streets.
Across this region, authoritarian rulers can see the challenge posed by a peaceful civil society.
Question is whether this climate change activism will translate into climate change action.
There's huge excitement here, but some question whether India should invest in the space race while millions live in poverty.
Once all the excitement dies down, for the new Emperor and Empress, there are many challenges ahead.
It's a crucial week for the future of the UK. Tonight, MPs will be voting on whether to hold a general election before the Brexit deadline.
Those record-breaking wind speeds and ocean surges have left behind a surreal landscape.
From this vantage point, you get a sense of the scale of the disaster facing this region of the Amazon.
There is so much energy and pride here for the U.S. women's soccer team. They've shown they are a force on the field.
Now showing on BBC Real.
I would like to invite you to rethink the fear of missing out. And I would like to encourage you to think about missing out as something that can be joyful, as something that can give your life meaning and existential depth. Our fear of missing out is driven by a whole lot of factors in modern society. We have the social media where we can compare ourselves to others, see how wonderful their lives are. Perhaps mine is not equally wonderful, so I have to change, I have to develop, I have to become someone else perhaps in order to experience life at its fullest. We also see a consumer culture with a big marketing industry that constantly tell us that we could have something more, have something better. There's actually much room for pleasure in disengagement.
Watch more stories like this at bbc.com/real.
Now on BBC World News, we continue the second series of History of Africa, based on a unique UNESCO project and presented by Zainab Badawi, this time giving an overview of how Africans lived before the arrival of Europeans.
History is not only about events, it is also about culture. It's hard to generalize about an entire continent, but as I've seen for myself on my travels in this series, there are fundamental similarities in how Africans south of the Sahara live. In this episode, we see how they ordered their societies, worshipped, dispensed justice, treated the sick, and related their own history. But we also see how the arrival of the Europeans brought change and challenges.
I think the state of the African continent and the people's way of life at that time exposed them to exploitation by the colonialists.
They looked at everything that was African as heathen and therefore needing cleansing.
Crowds enjoy a street performance in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. That's if you're not too small to miss out. When we talk about African culture today, it is essentially a mixture of influences throughout the centuries, because of course Africans traded and exchanged ideas as well as goods with many outsiders. But what can be described as indigenous African traditions, customs and practices? Well, Africans lived either in communities led by chiefs, or they were the subjects of a kingdom. Agriculture was and still is their main activity. Farmers produced what they ate and sold or exchanged the surplus. Sometimes they had to work for their chiefs. I visit a settlement of 100 inhabitants just outside the Zambian capital Lusaka to see how life revolved around the family and community. Henry Sibaba Shafita orders his granddaughters to carry out their chores. Great-uncle Robert gives a helping hand. The family are from the Tonga people, who've inhabited this part of southern Africa for centuries.
You must be Henry.
Yeah, I'm Henry.
I'm Zainab. Nice to meet you. How would you describe rural life amongst the Tonga people?
You know, we are main Tongas around here, and Tonga is a very big tribe. You know, some are from the valley, some are from the plateau. Like me, I'm from the valley. Tongas live with kettles, and that's our real life. Plowing, growing maize, that's our main kind of life. Even sculpturing, wood carving, and basket weaving.
Henry is keen to show me the artifacts he makes and sells in the market close to his home, and I obligingly and happily buy one. Communities like Henry's formed the bedrock of African society, and as research scientist James Niage explains, there were clear hierarchies.
So you find that first, the Africans were organized in sort of like villages. We had the family as the basic unit, and then we have the villages, and then the villages had their own form of leadership where there was the village head. The different village heads formed the leaders of the clan, and that is how the African set up in terms of governance. At this time, there was no formal education. What we used to have is the informal, which was passed on from one generation to another. You find like the children, mainly they used to get instructions from the mothers, and at times the old grandparents. They were not many engaged in economic activities. The children would sit around the grandfather, and during those times, the grandfather would pass messages of wisdom to the children.
In African communities, the role of the chief was deeply entrenched and indeed continues to this day. Zambia has even incorporated the tradition of chiefdoms in its modern democracy. I've come to the House of Chiefs here in the capital, Lusaka, to find out more about them. This is the parliament where they sit once a month. There are nearly 300 main chiefs in Zambia, including about 20 who are women. I meet one of them, 70-year-old Chief Ngabwi, who represents a chiefdom with about 35,000 subjects, around 300 kilometers from Lusaka.
The king's role, or the chief's role in Zambia, is basically to look after all the people in the kingdom, all the natural resources, and is actually the government in that particular area. So we carry out all the necessary activity that any government can undertake. Working as a community, looking after people. When you went to a community set up in rural areas, you won't identify an orphan because the villagers will look after the orphan. And a number of the orphans now who are roaming about the streets, you won't find them in the village. You won't find a widow in the village who is not being looked after. You won't find an elderly person being taken into old people's homes in the village, because we looked after everyone in the village as a community. You won't find anyone starving in the village because they used to have, in fact, a communal eating place, so that even a person who has no food in their houses, they were able to get something. And I think it's very, very important to look at the background. How did we manage to look after everyone?
It's from the language. We talked about language already. The imagery.
Victoria Chitungu is director of the National Museum in Lusaka and lectures on African culture.
And the music.
Sorry to interrupt your class.
Yeah?
Victoria tells me that although chiefs were predominantly male, that doesn't mean women didn't have any power.
First of all, most of Southern Africa was matrilineal. We had the matriarchs, the women that were the leaders of the social structure. Then you had the men that were the leaders of the political structure. Somebody would come in, this is the young girl, this is the boy, they want to get married. When they get married, the boy would move to the home of the girl or to the village of the girl. And they'll live there, and the boy will have to work for the family of the girl, because if he didn't work hard enough, they'll never release him to take the girl with him to his village. He was assessed to say he was a provider. He was hardworking. So he would work for as long as even 7 years.
Yeah. They don't exactly rush things,
no,
then, do they? But then how do you explain polygamy, where a man, especially a chief, could have up to 200 wives?
If you just explain polygamy as the only thing that defines a woman's power, it's something very complex. You cannot explain that, because some polygamy, the rules are set by the woman. Even the wife that this man is going to marry, it's the woman that decides, I think you can marry Zainab.
Wife number one, yes. Please. No, thank you. I think.
Then I would come to you and propose on behalf of my husband.
Oh, really?
Like, you know,
oh, I could be your husband's second wife?
Yeah, and I want you to be my sister.
That's the first time I've had such an offer.
Oh.
However, I think you're enough for one man. I certainly am enough for one man. We don't want to share.
Dr. Simon Rutabajuka explains the reasons behind polygamy.
Polygamy was not about morality. Polygamy was about labor needs, how societies reproduce themselves. Male heads of households controlled different family units and controlled women's labor and their children's labor.
So they needed lots of wives to produce lots of food?
Yes, they needed lots of wives, produce lots of food, to hunt, supplement the food with game, and this was the responsibility of older male children. So there was division of labor at family level and under the control of the head of the family.
So polygamy was rooted in the need for survival and was widely practiced across Africa. Since the beginning of time, Africans lived in relative harmony with one another and in tune with nature and their environment. History south of the Sahara was uneventful, because history that is absent of conflict often is. Africans, for the most part, led peaceful lives and cooperated with one another.
They used marriages, they used what we call blood brotherhood, and they used the friendships that they forged in the process of interacting with one another.
In terms of interaction between communities, sometimes this was of a violent nature. There were conflicts between communities competing for resources, for land sometimes.
There were conflicts, but so was cooperation. Conflicts were resolved amicably, but also through fines, through mediation, and through punishment, sanctions. We tend to look more on the side of conflict and forget that there were forms of diplomacy, there were forms of conflict resolution, even conflict prevention, which appeared to have been more common than actually conflict.
As well as settling disputes with neighbours, one of the most important roles of the chief and elders was and still is the dispensation of justice. The practice of customary law in Africa may vary in detail from region to region, but it is basically the same. A council of elders, usually male, adjudicates in disagreements. It's not easy to see traditional justice in action, but I managed to witness one particular case in a village outside the Ugandan capital, Kampala. The chairman of the Council of the Elders is adjudicating in a marital dispute between carpenter Arnold and hotel waitress Rebecca. They have 2 small children.
Saba chairman, omwami wange oyo ekyamumpaabizza mu LC bw'akomawo ekiro aba atamidde nnyo. Omwami wange oyo ampisa bubi nnyo. Ekisookera ddala anywa ekiteetaagisa. Akasente kaaleka akaakameeza katono ddala, ate n'akomawo n'ansaba bubi emmere, tekamala yadde okuliisa abaana be tulina. Ssebo chairman n'ekirala anywa nnyo omwenge. Bye byandeese ssebo.
Waliwo kye bakuwaayiriza?
Chairman, nange kankunyonyola ensonga zange okunywa naye omukyalo omulaba oyo Mama Aleni ndeka sente z'okukameeza.
Mpulira
sente zokka tulina abaana abo 2, Alex ne Allen. Bw'omulekera sente agamba abaana sente bakoze eki, balidde emmere weddewo. Okujja ekiro anangira okuva mu bwenzi. Gwolaba oyo omukyala yayawula ebisenge oyo gwolaba. Chairman, tulina mukazi mwayawula ebisenge ewaka. Oyo omukyala tayawula ebisenge oyo gwolaba. Andese mu LC. Kyokka nsaba za kameeza. Chairman, nange nina ensonga zange n'abasajja baabo anangira okunywa omwenge tuteeseza ku mabbaala. Z'okunywa seewakana ekyo talimbye naye bisigadde. Nawasa omukazi kwawula bisenge ky'amaanyi.
Kaakati ssebo.
Rebecca has a female relative in tow to bolster her case.
Saakuwa ngoma nakuwa kumulabirira. Ne biwampa nabirya dda mbimalawo. Ono golodi wange. Komyawo omwana wange atasobola mulabira. Twakuwa abatamiivu.
Both sides present their arguments for some time to the elders. At the end, after listening to the evidence, the chairman reaches this judgment.
Nyabo.
Wangi ssebo.
Omwami oyo mulaba?
Yes ssebo.
Ye musajja wo.
Ye chairman.
Mukulu. Kendeeza kabisi.
Ego taata.
Abo basiriva bakusigula. Si bagenda okufumba ewuwo.
Tegedde taata.
Essebo. Maama.
Era Mama Aleni nsonyiwa bambi. Nsonyiwa mukwano. Nsonyiwa.
Ssebo.
omukyala ategedde ensobi ze n'omusajja nakkiriza ensobi ze era ekibadde kibatabula butawaŋŋana biki bitiibwa oli akitegedde nti ono ye mukyala we n'ono akitegedde nti oli yaani ye mwami we oli bw'aba asobezza tasamba busambi ono oli bw'aba asobezza toyawula bisenge ekyalisoose ate mmwe kye mwasembyayo kati awo ne mbasaba buli muntu awe munne kiki obufumbo bwammwe bujja kugenda mu maaso.
Thank you. And I hope that you have a very happy life and you get the outcome you want, and also you too. Thank you. I asked Dr. Christine Mpiangu whether African traditional justice gives women a good deal.
Generally speaking, the men took the order of the day. But I think there were also some societies that had a clear understanding of women's complaints. But in general terms, the men, for example, in issues of land, the women will not inherit land. The daughters will not inherit land. It will be the mercy of a male elder or a male caretaker to say, let all the women too get access to their father's land. But up to now, if things are not lined up well in written in a will, women can still go away with a raw deal because the men still would have the center stage of issues when it comes to justice.
Is the Council of Elders always just male?
Again, it depends on the family. Again, it depends on the community because not all communities are completely happy not to have women.
So historically, the Council of Elders would be all men?
Would be all men. Yeah.
Shame.
Shame. But I think we're getting above that now.
Along with customary law, I want to observe another significant aspect of African culture, the traditional medicine practitioner. I travel west from Uganda to Congo in Central Africa and head from the capital Brazzaville to the village of Kinkala, about 60 kilometers away. I join a small group of people suffering from a variety of ailments and their relatives, who've come seeking relief from the medicine woman, Agnes Wumba.
Bunibuka kabuni sarsa nzambi kasongelani mamba mo biekele mamba tueni kwembevo mbevo yuwashiri kancha chimbevo kwacho chibere nandi mamba mo limo mamubuka mamuwashisa gamanyima tumuturiri akati tumuzungiri kukatira bushi tumushiri bikaku yo bibataka muchindombi mpini tukatukiri buna tuyuriri mumpeve kangana chisani kwa tumuana tukotele kuchikulucho tuyuriri mpeve nche chisani le limubuka bimbevo yo yabanso morai pilomo pachi yo kuabi muisabantu mpashi beye songe pali muna chisane buna zoni nsalulu za songe la mpeve kwe mama wumba anyese chantete chakasongela ni mamba moma tutuririwa semwana pivelo semwana pivelo.
Il y a une médecine qui est basée sur les décoctions, hein, c'est-à-dire qu'un breuvage qu'on donne et qui permet donc de soulager et de guérir. Mais cette médecine-là est une médecine qui prend en compte les deux aspects. Il y a l'aspect somatique, c'est-à-dire lié spécifiquement au corps, et il y a l'aspect, je dirais, psychique, surnaturel, parce que chez les Africains, une maladie, c'est toujours une corruption du corps. C'est toujours un mauvais sort qui a été jeté. Donc on commence par regarder sur le plan spirituel, est-ce que ce n'est pas un mauvais sort? Et quand ce n'est pas un mauvais sort, en ce moment-là, on s'attaque à la maladie. Bien entendu qu'on peut aujourd'hui spéculer sur la nature du diagnostic, mais le diagnostic était fait. Chaque maladie était nommée, hein, et des traitements étaient administrés. Bon, ce qu'on appelle aujourd'hui la pharmacopée africaine, basée notamment sur les plantes.
The use of herbal and traditional treatments has proved remarkably durable and coexists alongside modern medicine in many African societies. One very significant feature of African life that has also endured is that of indigenous belief and spirituality. Today, the vast majority of the continent is either Muslim or Christian. About 15% of people still adhere to traditional spirituality, but many more integrate some of these old African beliefs into their faith. I've been told that I can talk to some people who still worship as their ancestors did. I have to make my way through a forest area to reach them. They are the Kaya community of Kenya, who live about 40 kilometers outside Mombasa. A local guide, Julius Banjumambo, is helping me find them. In a clearing, I come across the group led by the elders performing their rituals. Daniel is the senior elder.
Hapa ni mahali kwetu kwa kwanza kusema na wazee waliotutangulia kabla tujaingia ndani ya msitu kwa shughuli za maombi. Kwamba tunakuja kuwaambia kuwa tuko hapa ndani, kwa pengine tumeambiwa kuna magonjwa, njaa, vita, ndio tunakuja kuwaeleza hawa ndio tuende kwa kufanya shughuli za kupiga vita magonjwa. Wako watabiri ambao ndio wanazungumza na hawa wazee, ndio wale watabiri wanatuita sisi kutueleza, ndio tunakuja kwa hawa wazee kuja kufanya hizo shughuli. Kwa sababu huyo Mungu basi hakuja na mzungu. Mungu ni Mungu, alikuweko kabla mzungu kuja. Kwa hiyo tunajua Mungu ni Mungu na Mungu ni yule mmoja. So katika hali zile ambazo wazee wangu walikuwa wakimwabudu Mungu, ni heri niendeleze kuabudu Mungu katika njia hii.
I think life in Africa itself forms a very strong foundation for the various belief systems. People lived one for another, and that understanding can be seen to translate in how they will understand issues of what they live for. For example, an individual is not defined as one without the other. And secondly, the understanding of God also forms a strong bedrock. So it's not God as understood in Christianity, but God with so many other names and attributes.
What are the basic principles in indigenous belief?
You know, like in Africa, they will say the dead are not dead. They are present when important occasions are taking place, in case of trouble, in case of war. So the ancestors are critical in the sense that the people believe that they carry the history of the family, the history of the clan, and they are participating in whatever the family is going through.
There will always be a ritual performer.
There has to be that person who is actually performing the ritual, and there will be an elder presiding over the ritual. So these rituals are not for nothing. They are the link. They are building the bridge between the person who is present and also the departed. And so the whole issue of being sensitive to the ancestors is very critical.
In African spiritual beliefs, veneration of the ancestors ensures the sustenance of the human race. The soul and the spirits are one. And this is something which I've seen for myself in the time I've spent with Daniel and the elders. Not all members of the Kaya community follow their indigenous beliefs, but they most certainly celebrate their culture through dance, as Africans do right across the continent. Africans south of the Sahara worshipped, treated the sick, carried out justice, and formed their communities and hierarchies according to their own customs. And this is how they lived for centuries. However, as we discover after the break, these traditions were severely tested and strained by the arrival of the Europeans.
يتصرفون بحياة المواطنين العراقيين يجب أن يتجنبوا من هذا الموضوع ويحاولون بدلا من التهديد وتخويف الدخول في مفاوضات بالتعاون مع الأحزاب
بخصوص
نتيجة أفضل
بخصوص التهديد
ولا عن الإجبار.
يا سيدي بخصوص التهديد والوعيد، ربما تابعت ما فعله النائب عدي العواد وهو من جماعة عصائب أهل الحق قيس الخزعلي على شاشة أحد التلفزيونات العراقية اليوم، وما قدمه من إساءات لن أذكر ما قال أو ما فعل وأنتم أكيد تابعتم. جعل البعض يقول أنه يعني لا يمكن عصائب أهل الحق تتصرف بدون موافقة إيران، وبالتالي أصبح برهم صالح ومن خلفه الكرد في مواجهة مع إيران بشكل كامل. هل ممكن تفسرونها بهذا الشكل؟ وإذا كان كذلك ماذا يمكن أن تفعلوا؟
لا أبدا، أنا أتصور تصرف هذا الشخص لا يمكن تعميمه على كل أفراد عصائب الحق، وهذا التصرف بعيد كل البعد عن موقف إيراني رسمي نحن لنا أيضا موقف إيراني صريح بهذا الخصوص، وهذا أيضا شأن عراقي. أتصور هذا الموضوع يجب أن يحل من قبل العراقيين فقط.
طيب، كتائب حزب الله وصفوا هذه الخطوة بشكل أو بآخر بأنها خطوة مشبوهة وأن الأمريكان هم الذين يقودون برهم صالح. هذه أشياء يعني تتوالى الأيام القادمة، اتهامات، لستة الاتهامات لن تنتهي وأنتم تتوقعون ذلك. يعني
هذه هي جمل جاهزة حافظيها بعض الأفراد لا يعرفون ماذا يعني. نعم. أنا أتصور اتهام دكتور برهم بالفساد أو بالخطوات المشبوهة قابلة للتحقيق. أنا أتصور هو على هبة الاستعداد للمثل أمام القضاء للتحقيق في هذه الأمور بدلا من الإشاعات الفاضية.
طيب سيدي، لماذا لم يطرح الرئيس برهم صالح؟ أنا أسأل حقيقة، ربما يكون من حواركم معه توصلتم إلى نتيجة. الرجل قادر أن يطرح اسم، وربما جزء من مواد الدستور تتيح له هذه النقطة طالما أو هذا الحق طالما أن الكتل متعثرة بهذه الطريقة. لماذا لم يطرح اسم؟ لماذا أسأل هذا السؤال عليك أنت شخصيا؟ لأن البعض يقول هو يعمل حساب كثيرا لعدم يعني إحداث أي ضرر للكرد نتيجة مواقفه. هو الدستور يحق له أن يطرح اسم وننتهي من كل هذا الجدل. لماذا؟
أتصور هو من حقه أن لا يسبب أي ضرر للكرد، لأن الكرد متضررين جراء الأنظمة المختلفة في العراق منذ العقود. لكن في هذا الموضوع أنا أتصور موقف الاتحاد الوطني الكردستاني والإجماع الكردي واضح جدا. نحن في اجتماع مع جميع الأحزاب والمسؤولين العراقيين في بغداد بحضور رئيس أقليم كردستان وبحضوري أنا أيضا، وكان فخامة الرئيس حاضر ومجموعة من الإخوان حاضر. نحن أكدنا على أنه أي حل تقود هذه المشاكل في العراق إلى التهدئة وتخفيف حدة التوتر نحن مستعدين، سواء مشكلة الدستور أو مشاكل ما يتعلق بموضوع التعيينات وفرص العمل للشباب وإلى آخره. فكيف نحن نكون عثرة أو عقدة أمام طريق الحل؟ لا، بالعكس. نعم. لكن هذا الطريق اللي يسألون عنها طريق غير سالك إلى الحل، وإنما طريق سالك إلى سيكون السلم المجتمعي في خطر.
نعم.
وفتنة وتعميق الخلافات أولا. ثانيا، موضوع فخامة الرئيس دكتور برهام ورئيس الجمهورية، ليس هناك إشكالية في أكثرية النيابية حسب مادة 76.
نعم.
مادة 81 يعطي الحق لرئيس الجمهورية أن يحل محل لأن الموقع خالية. المادة 76 هو يكلف الكتلة أكثر نائبا.
نعم.
لكن ليس هناك نص صريح من رئيس مجلس النواب أنه
ولا المحكمة
أي كتلة هي الأكثر عددا.
نعم فعلا. أشكرك شكر جزيل عضو المجلس القيادي للاتحاد الوطني الكردستاني سعدي بيرة، شكرا جزيلا لك.
هناك أكثر من 13,000 خرق ارتكبتها جماعة الحوثي بحق المناطق المحررة.
لا يوجد بنود واضحة تتعلق بمناقشة إلزام الحوثيين بتنفيذ هذا الاتفاق.
9 أشهر حتى هذه اللحظة لم ينفذ اتفاق السويد.
ميليشيا الحوثي مستمرة في التصعيد، ميليشيا الحوثي مستمرة في التقدم.
اجتماع جديد في عرض البحر، ماذا يمكن أن يضيف على الاجتماعات السابقة؟
المرحلة الحاسمة التي نمر بها مرحلة لا تحتاج مزيد من المواجهات أو الصراعات.
كيف تقرأ كل هذه المعلومات، خاصة موضوع مناقشة إجراء تثبيت الهدنة؟
هذا الجبل الذي ينتصب خلفي هو جبل مريش. هذا الجبل أول بث مباشر لقناة تلفزيونية.
تصعيد وتحشيد للمقاتلين وقصف يومي مستمر. كيف تسير المعركة؟
نحن مع السلام، لكن ما يجري الآن يؤكد أن لا سلام مع من يؤمن بالعنف والقتل.
صور، أرقام وأخبار. في يومك كم من المعلومات تشاهد؟ هل تعرف مصدرها؟ ابحث عن المصدر قبل المعلومة.
لإعلاناتكم على شاشة الحدث. الأخبار من الحدث.
تجدد الاشتباكات بين الجيش الليبي وميليشيات الزاوية غرب طرابلس، وأنقرة تستعد لدعم الوفاق عسكريا. البرلمان العراقي يدعو إلى حوار وطني، وقيس الخزعلي يهدد الرئيس بالإقالة أو الاستقالة. واشنطن تحذر من إجراءات إيرانية استفزازية في المنطقة، وبومبيو يؤكد أحقية شعبها بتأبين ضحاياه. نشرة إخبارية مفصلة من الحدث، حياكم الله. نبدأ من التطورات في ليبيا، حيث أفادت مصادر الحدث بتجدد الاشتباكات بين الجيش الوطني وميليشيات الزاوية في منطقة أبو عيسى غرب طرابلس، وقبل ذلك سيطر على طريق المطار، مطار طرابلس الاستراتيجي. هذا وكشف المتحدث باسم الجيش عن مقتل 940 عنصرا من الميليشيات منذ أبريل الماضي، وأكد أن تركيا استخدمت عناصر من جبهة النصرة في سوريا لمساندة الميليشيات في طرابلس.
تطورات ميدانية لافتة في معركة تحرير العاصمة الليبية طرابلس، فقد أعلن الجيش الوطني بقيادة خليفة حفتر التقدم على مختلف محاور العاصمة، خاصة طريق المطار الاستراتيجي. الجيش الليبي أكد سيطرته على طريق المطار، معلنا تقهقر ميليشيات حكومة الوفاق، كما أكد المتحدث باسمه.
بالساعة 12 من ظهر اليوم بدأت الاشتباكات وبدأت قوات تتقدم، وخاصة في محور طريق المطار باتجاه طرابلس. سيطرت على مواقع جديدة جدا وهي مواقع هامة مثل كوبري الفروسية، والآن تتقدم باتجاه تنفيذ الواجبات التالية. أعتقد أن الساعات القادمة ستكون مفاجئة جدا لمتتبعي الشأن الليبي ولكل الليبيين.
خارطة المعارك تظهر حسب شعبة الإعلام الحربي التابعة للجيش الوطني السيطرة على مساحات شاسعة جنوب طرابلس، فيما أحكمت قوات النخبة قبضتها على معسكر النقلية وخزانات النفط وجسر الفروسية، فضلا عن منطقة الحرشة في الزاوية قرب طرابلس. الجيش الوطني الليبي وجه تحذيرات لتركيا، معتبرا أن إرسال أردوغان قوات إلى ليبيا ستكون مغامرة غير محسوبة العواقب، خصوصا وأنه تم القبض على عدد من عناصر ميليشيات طرابلس، فضلا عن أن قوات الجيش تسيطر على أهم الطرق المؤدية إلى قلب العاصمة طرابلس، حيث تتحصن الميليشيات بالأحياء السكنية، كما أكد الجيش الوطني مشددا على عزمه اقتحامها.
قال المتحدث باسم الرئيس التركي رجب طيب أردوغان إن حكومة الوفاق طلبت مساعدة عسكرية من أنقرة. وأوضح المتحدث فخر الدين ألتون عبر تغريدة له على تويتر أن تركيا سوف تلتزم بالاتفاقية المبرمة مع حكومة الوفاق، وسوف تقوم بذلك وفقا لتصريحات سابقة للرئيس التركي. إلى المشهد العراقي، حيث دعا الأمين العام لمجلس النواب جميع الأطياف العراقية إلى الجلوس لطاولة الحوار وإطلاق مبادرة وطنية تتبناها شخصيات تحظى بقبول شعبي، وطالب في بيان بالعودة إلى الدستور وجعله الفيصل في حل الخلافات، كما طالب في بيانه بالابتعاد عن المصالح الحزبية والطائفية لبناء الدولة. الأمين العام لمجلس النواب قال إن إشراك الشباب وأصحاب الكفاءات في قيادة الدولة يجب أن يكون من أولويات الحكومة المقبلة. هاجم زعيم ميليشيا عصائب أهل الحق قيس الخزعلي رئيس برهم صالح، مهددا إياه بالإقالة على خلفية رفضه تكليف مرشح تحالف البناء لتشكيل الحكومة الجديدة. وقال الخزعلي إن الخطوة الأخيرة لرئيس الجمهورية لم تكن مبررة، وإن الحجج التي أعطاها لم تكن منطقية. وقال إن الدستور يحتم عليه تكليف مرشح الكتلة الأكبر في البرلمان، موضحا أن اعتراضه على مرشح معين ليس من اختصاصه بل يعود للكتل المتنافسة بحسب تعبيره. كما شدد الخزعلي على أن عدم تكليف مرشح الكتلة الأكبر يدخل البلاد في فوضى، وأضاف أن أمام برهم صالح إما الاستقالة أو الإقالة.
إيران تلجأ إلى وكلائها لتهديد هرم السلطة في العراق الرئيس برهم صالح، ما اضطره لمغادرة بغداد والإقامة في السليمانية بإقليم كردستان. هذا ما ذهب إليه تقرير لموقع اندبندنت عربية. واستنادا إلى مصادر لم يسمها، أشار الموقع إلى تهديدات بالقتل طالة الرئيس برهم صالح عقب رفضه تكليف أسعد العيداني رئيسا للوزراء خلفا لعادل عبد المهدي. صالح عارض تقديم استقالته لاحقا بعد تزايد الضغوط عليه كما أورد التقرير. وحسب تقرير اندبندنت عربية فإن برهم صالح رفض خطط طهران لضمان وجود رئيس وزراء موال لها في بغداد، وفورا تحرك وكلاء إيران في العراق لاستهداف الرئيس برهم صالح عبر 3 طرق. الأولى استخدام كتائب حزب الله العراقي وسيلة التهديد المباشر باستخدام طائرات مسيرة محملة بقنابل تم إطلاقها لتحوم فوق قصر السلام المقر الرسمي لرئيس الجمهورية. الطريقة الثانية لتخويف برهم صالح هي مباشرة حملة تتهم الرئيس بالفساد حركها موالون لإيران في لجنة النزاهة بالبرلمان العراقي. أما الطريقة الثالثة والأخيرة فهي تخوين الرئيس برهم صالح، حيث اتهمه تحالف البناء القريب من إيران بتنفيذ أجندة أمريكية. رمضان بالعمري، الحدث.
قال المتحدث باسم العشائر العربية العراقية الشيخ مزاحم الحويت إن قبول الرئيس العراقي تولي العيداني رئاسة الحكومة العراقية يعني قبوله تولي قاسم سليماني المنصب. وأضاف في تصريحات للحدث أن ميليشيات حزب الله وعصائب أهل الحق تسعى لاستهداف الرئيس العراقي بدعم من سليماني.
اليوم إذا الرئيس برهم صالح يوافق على تولي العيداني منصب رئاسة الوزراء، يعني معناته أنه هذا المنصب هو تولي سليماني اليوم هو يقوم بدعم الميليشيات ودعم فصائل من عصائب أهل الحق وحزب الله لاستهداف رئيس الجمهورية بسبب أنه رفض تسمية العيداني وتنصيبه كرئيس وزراء للعراق.
قال نائب رئيس مجلس النواب العراقي بشير حداد إن رسالة رئيس الجمهورية في بيان موقف وليس طلبا رسميا للاستقالة. ودعا حداد الجميع إلى تغليب المنطق ولغة العقل والحكمة لتجنيب البلاد مزيدا من المآسي والمشكلات. أشار إلى أنه في حال لم يسحب رئيس الجمهورية رسالته خلال أسبوع فإنها ستعتبر استقالة. كما أكد حداد حاجة خطوة الرئيس إلى توضيح من المحكمة الاتحادية. ميدانيا شهدت العاصمة بغداد تظاهرات حاشدة في ساحة التحرير وسط المدينة، وللمرة الأولى منذ بدء التظاهرات توجه المئات من المحتجين من ساحة التحرير لمنطقة الجدرية التي تضم مقرات لغالبية الأحزاب الحاكمة، إضافة لعدد من منازل المسؤولين وكبار رجال الدولة.